It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. With the cost of groceries going up and up, now is the perfect time to get started with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. I love HelloFresh for that exact reason. It saves me time and money, and I don't have to sacrifice taste or quality. For more information, go to HelloFresh.com/NHL60 and use code NHL60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/NHL60. Again, today's sponsor is HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Happy hump day, everybody. Welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey news and degenerate gambling breakdowns. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Let's get right to all the fantasy news that you need to know right now.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am lucky and blessed to be joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Steele Roden, as always. It is also your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for holding us down Monday through Friday. We are here for you for all of the playoff breakdowns, news, and fantasy analysis headed into next season as well, Steele. And I got a little bit of the lens on next year on today's episode. And today we're talking about Calgary Flames eliminated. Some interesting decisions from Daryl Sutter once again, Steele, that I want your take on. Erik Karlsson becomes only the 6th NHL D-man in history to hit 100. And when I looked at that record, Steele, some really impressive names alongside Mr. Karlsson that we're going to talk about as well. I also got to sneak in Colorado Avalanche, Cale Makar back to health. You and I got big time bets for Wednesday's board. And we want to talk about what potential wild card team could have the most aspirations for that cup. So a little bit of everything on today's episode, Steele. Let me throw it right over to you, though, because once again, I can't help but say Daryl Sutter shoots his own team in the foot, if you will, with a really bad decision on who he's throwing out there for the shootout. Why don't we start there? Because that's another 1-goal loss for this Calgary Flames team.
Yeah, it's just a brutal stretch for the Calgary Flames the last few weeks, might I add, because I'm looking at their schedule right now. And last night they were officially eliminated in that 3-2 shootout loss to the Nashville Predators, who are also battling for that last playoff spot in the Western Conference. But you look at the last week for the Calgary Flames, they lost to the Chicago Blackhawks 4-3 in a game they should have destroyed them in. They lost in a shootout to the Vancouver Canucks just a few days ago, and now in a crucial game against the Nashville Predators. And you said it yourself, with Daryl Sutter and his judgment. I can't believe and I don't understand the reasoning of putting Nick Ritchie in the shootout for an attempt against UC Saros. Didn't make any sense. I don't know if you saw the post-game press conference for Daryl Sutter giving his reasoning about that.
Oh, I saw
apparently,
it.
Yeah, Nick Ritchie scored on Saros before in a shootout. Like, that is an absolute bonehead move from Daryl Sutter and the coaching staff. I can't believe that neither Tyler Toffoli or Elias Lindholm wasn't taking that shot instead of Ritchie, especially in a game where there's 2 crucial points. You need to win this game. You cannot afford an overtime loss, and you go out and do that. So poor judgment all around. And I want to, bring up what Craig Button said on TSN the other day as well, that this is a place where nobody in the Calgary Flames organization thought they would be at the end of the regular season. A top-tier coach that didn't have a good season. A top-tier goaltender that didn't have a good season. Top forwards that didn't have a good season. All around, it just didn't work, and it wasn't a good season. And to be honest with you, I've been seeing this floating around the last, since last night, that this could be a really different approach for the Calgary Flames this offseason, and it could be a big splash as well with moving some pieces and changing the atmosphere in the room.
Hey, that might be where the needle is headed. And before I give you that breakdown on what I think about this situation very quickly, my bad. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Got to get that in there. Got to pay those bills, Steele. We love the Game Time app, and it is so easy to use. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later on in the show, so we got to give Game Time that love. But realistically, I'm with you here. I understand percentages, actually, even though I'm not a numbers guy. I get what he is trying to fall on here, but this is what I think about this situation. This is this Calgary Flames coaching staff, anchored by Sutter, going out doing them. This is just, they're sticking to their guns. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to play their way. They're going to play the team their way, and it hasn't worked out, and so be it. I swear, that's just how it feels, Steele. Because Andro Mangiapane, 17 goals, I know. But Tyler Toffoli, to be left off, what he's been doing, and you did a really good job talking about him the other day, how we thought it was going to be the pieces around in Calgary making him better, and all he's done is made his team better. To not put Tyler Toffoli in there when you have your season on the line and he's been your best player offensively, oh my goodness, that just doesn't make a lick of sense to me. And you know what, Steele? All of these one-goal games, and I'll hit you with this, the Flames are the third team in NHL history to suffer 3-0 one-goal losses. The better team won, and the more deserving team won. That's how I'm looking at it. Because this Calgary team is just one of the biggest disappointments that I can remember in a long, long time.
Yeah, and you just go to look at, again, going off of what you just said, 31-goal games.
30!
17 overtime losses this season.
Wow.
17 times they let an extra point slip through right through their fingers in crucial moments, especially crucial moments down the stretch, like I said about the Chicago Blackhawks game, the Vancouver game, and
winnable
this Nashville Predators game. So to me, when you point out what you just did, 30 times this season in one-goal game situations and then 17 overtime losses, and that's not even accounting to how many times they actually went into overtime and won games in a shootout or won games in overtime. So
can't do it.
The fact that you go into overtime that many times and lose 17 of them is just showcasing the very poor coaching judgment, the very poor goaltending, and the very poor upfront ability from both defensemen and forwards on the Calgary Flames. So they're not making the playoffs. They're officially done. They're not making it. Another team that is not making it is the San Jose Sharks.
Yes.
But what a night for Erik Karlsson on the blue line. Reaches 100 points on the season. First time in his career he's doing it. The 10th player this season to reach 100 points, but only, like you said at the beginning of this episode, only the 6th defenseman all time to reach 100 points in a season. And like you said, I'll let you list off the names if you have them, but he's put himself with a group of defensemen who have been historic themselves throughout their NHL career.
And quite simply, Steele, the best defenseman to ever do it offensively.
Exactly, yes.
If you're going to make cases for defense and all-around blue liners, I haven't watched enough hockey to argue with you. But offensive numbers are offensive numbers. And when I hear Brian Leetch, Al McInnes, Dennis Potvin, Paul Coffey, by the way, Paul Coffey had 100 points 5 times in his career. And how about Bobby Orr, the greatest blue liner to ever do it? Been lucky to have my cottage right around the corner from the Bobby Orr Museum in Parry Sound, Ontario, home of Bobby Orr. And I've learned a lot about Bobby Orr over his career, not watching it live, obviously. He did it 6 times, Steele. 6 times with 100 points. And when I look at Erik Karlsson, first of all, I think you know what I need to say. My bad. You were right. I was wrong. You said he's going to continue to go off and have a good second half, and I was one of the guys ready to sign him off in the first half. So kudos to you there. He is now 25 points clear of the next highest defenseman this year. So second of all, I was wrong on. Give this man his Norris as well. But this is where I want to take this conversation before we go to break quickly. there's no way he's hitting 100 again, correct?
No, I don't think he hits 100
So,
again.
if you were an Erik Karlsson owner in a Dynasty Keeper League, are you selling high on him in this offseason and taking in a whole boatload of talent for the guy who just set a record? Or do you hang on to him because you think, right, he's probably headed to a winner at some point soon?
Yeah, and maybe we can continue this conversation after the break.
Yes.
Simply put it, I don't think he'll get to 100 points again, but I still think he'll be putting on a showcase moving forward because we've seen Erik Karlsson do this before, and he hasn't looked this good since back in 2015 when he was with the Ottawa Senators and they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So for me, I'm not saying he's not gonna hit 100 points, but he's going to continue to put on a show for all the fans out there.
Well, maybe we will talk a little bit more after the break. We got to talk about what these playoff matches and scenarios are starting to shape up in terms of the wild card. Steele and I also got to give our wild card team that we think, or I don't know, Steele might not have one, that could potentially make a little noise and go on a run. But you know what else makes a little noise? It's the Game Time app. And it could be a stressed out time buying tickets, finding them last minute, hunting them down, competing for buyers' prices. But buying tickets doesn't need to be stressful. With Game Time, it's fast and it's easy. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, and it's the easiest way for you to buy tickets to all of your favorite sporting events, music events, comedy acts, and theater shows near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can't stop stressing over tickets until you deal with Game Time. You will be hyped. It's fun to use and, of course, easy to use. I know my boy Steele has bought a couple of pairs of tickets through Game Time. Super easy to use, very quick and secure. Easy to find and buy tickets to everything in your area as well. Local events, you need Game Time. Images of your seats, low price guarantees, event cancellation protection. That is what you get through Game Time. Snag the tickets with less stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. With the cost of groceries going up and up, now is the perfect time to get started with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. I love HelloFresh for that exact reason. It saves me time and money, and I don't have to sacrifice taste or quality. For more information, go to HelloFresh.com/NHL60 and use code NHL60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/NHL60. Again, today's sponsor is HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. So make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the love, all the support you show us every single day. And gotta love Game Time. Those last minute deals come in crucial when you're on a time crunch and want to go to some event. But let's get back to this Erik Karlsson just to wrap things up, because you made a good comment there about what his fantasy value might be next season. And honestly, I wouldn't be trading Erik Karlsson if you're in a keeper league. It depends, obviously, on the deal, because there's a right price for everything. Everything can be sold at the right price. But he's shown me this season that he's capable of putting up another 80, maybe 90-point season. If he can do it with the San Jose Sharks, I know for the majority of the season that, he was playing with guys like Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, Logan Couture before, obviously, Timo Meier and a few other guys were traded. Nonetheless, if he can do that with the San Jose Sharks, he can still, like you said, most likely get traded, which I think he will be traded this offseason, because that makes the most sense for the Sharks moving forward. If he gets traded to one of those top tier teams, or at least a team that is making a playoff push and becoming better and better every season, then I think he can continue to showcase his offensive abilities. He's turning 33 years old in May. So yes, he's a little bit older, but he's showcased, at least to me, and I assume to a lot of other hockey fans out there, that he still has a lot left in the tank, and he's not going to be hanging up anytime soon.
I think I said this the other day when I was taking some Matthews take. When you have to look at some players, I'm Mr. Sell High. I like selling high on pieces. That's kind of, when it comes to Keeper Dynasty, which, I also have a bit more of a passion for in terms of the format. It can really be an intriguing thing to capitalize on a season like Erik Karlsson has just had and get a whole boatload of talent. And I think that's why I really appreciate what you said about there's always the right price. But for me, Steele, the age, his injury track record, and just so many variables, including banking on a guy to get traded, even though I fully agree with you, I think it makes complete sense. Although the contract, $11.5 million all the way until 2027 is what might be holding it up, and was obviously a point of contention at the trade deadline. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, me personally, I would probably lean towards moving on and capitalizing on what you could get from a 100-point season, although I'll leave it at this with Erik Karlsson. I remember one of those playoff series when he was an Ottawa Senator, and I forget who they were playing, but he threw that saucer pass, the length of the rink. That was one of the most special things I ever saw live watching a game on TV, and he still has that magic, and you made that point as well. So all I got to say is with Erik Karlsson, when you're in the mix with the Leaches, Coffees, and all the other guys we mentioned, and Bobby Orr, we got to come on this show and give this man his flowers. And that's what we just did, because that was a special year. Now, if you're okay with it.
Real quick, with Erik Karlsson, though, because with Erik Karlsson, because you're saying because of his age and everything. And I do agree with that point, but we've said the same thing for Sidney Crosby, and I'm not trying to compare the players, even though they're both very talented. But we got to compare it in this instance, because Sidney Crosby is one of those players that have dealt with injuries and that have impacted his fantasy value at time. That's why his fantasy value went down a little bit this year, because people were scared of that injury-prone kind of status that Crosby has. Nonetheless, he goes out, plays a full season, almost 80 games so far, and puts up 91 points. Both players have dealt with injuries, very different circumstances. I understand that. But Erik Karlsson's 33 years old. He's turning 33. Sidney Crosby's 35. And if Karlsson's putting up more points as a defenseman than Sidney Crosby right now, I think you might as well hold on to him, because he's showing that he's got it in the bag.
I'm not disagreeing that you hold on to him. That angle that you're taking, I don't know if I'm here for, because he just missed 69 games over the last 4 seasons, and I don't think Sid's anywhere near that number. But in the same vein, I hear you. I just don't want to ever compare those two players, and comparing a forward's value to a D-man's. Now we're getting into a dicey situation, but anyway, great season from Karlsson. I was wrong. You were definitely right, so maybe you continue to be by hanging on to him. I'd be selling him. We'll revisit all of these situations over the next couple of weeks and into the offseason, Steele. We'll have lots of breakdowns for the fans out there. By the way, tomorrow, special returning guest Josh Wegman of The Score, senior writer and fantasy hockey guru. Make sure you're tuned and tapped into tomorrow's episode. Steele, can I throw it over to the wild card now? Because I don't want to have to go back down to heated Austin Matthews disappointing season conversation. But we can if we will. But wild card in the West is looking a little bit more locked up. So I wanted to head over to the Eastern Conference quickly.
Yes.
The New York Islanders are now starting to sputter a little bit down the stretch. Florida has moved into that first and top wild card spot of the Eastern Conference teams. First, let's start there. Hypothetically, we're going to include all 3 because we don't know yet who is in there. Florida, New York, Pittsburgh. In your mind, who is the most capable of first round aside, any one of these teams able to make a little bit of noise here in this playoffs?
Yeah, I think there are. And, obviously we're talking about the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about the West in a little bit. Yeah. But to me, I honestly believe that both the New York Islanders and the Florida Panthers can disrupt a lot of those top tier teams in the Eastern Conference. I'm not saying they will. I'm not betting on them too. Actually, I am betting on the Islanders because I think they can beat the Bruins in a very tough matchup. But I think both the Islanders and the Panthers can make a deep playoff run if they get out of that first round. Like I said, I've been saying this for a while now. I 100% believe that Ilya Sorokin can steal the New York Islanders that first round series against the Boston Bruins. Obviously, if they make the playoffs. Barzal, he's listed as day-to-day right now. He's working on himself.
He's getting close.
He could be getting close. He probably is close. I assume he'll be back for that first round matchup as well. And if they can get him back, that's just a plus. But truly, I believe Ilya Sorokin can be that goaltender to steal a round from the Bruins. If they do, I think they can make a deep playoff run because they beat the Bruins back in. They beat the Bruins back in 2021 in the semifinal, in the Eastern semifinals. They've proved that they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals before. If they go up against Tampa Bay, which has been their Achilles heel that has really hurt them in the past, that could be a problem. I truly believe the Islanders can, based off of Ilya Sorokin. Plus, I'm even going to go with the Florida Panthers because the Florida Panthers do face the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round, you and I have been saying this for weeks now that we are nervous about the offensive ability and the pressure that is going to be on Martin Necas. It's going to be on Sebastian Aho. Because you don't have Pacioretty. You don't have Svechnikov. Can Brent Burns at 38 years old play at that playoff atmosphere type of level? He probably can. But again, we're talking about the offensive ability. So to me, if the Panthers and Islanders get out of the first round, I do think they can make a deep playoff run. But I'm not saying that they will because anything is possible in the playoffs.
That was so nicely said that I don't even know. I just kind of want to move on to I just kind of want to. Nicely done, my friend. And also, thank you so much for standing up for, I think, what I was saying about Sorokin all offseason.
Oh, yeah.
Long. And I know, it's not, I went off the rails a bit and I drafted him too high. Okay, whatever. I'm in last place. That's what happens when you draft live on TV and you got to go against a kid and the god named Mr. Steele Roden. But anyway, Florida to me going into Carolina, if that's what, and it looks like that's what it is right now. Of course, that could change, Steele, but that's what we're going with hypotheticals. To me, I'm taking Florida in 6. And you and I are going to do our breakdowns. We're going to go series by series and give our predictions. And I honestly can't wait for those episodes. So make sure everyone's tuned and tapped in for that because that's coming up only in a couple of days. But yeah, the goal scoring is concerning for me with the Carolina Hurricanes because when games get tight and you even still can't produce those goals, I don't care how good you can play defense because you need someone to score a clutch goal. Anyway, quickly, take us to break, my friend, because I do want to talk maybe a little bit more abbreviated on this Western Conference side of things, but we still got to give the West their due. Take us away, my friend. And big time bets coming up, of course.
Hey there, Locked On listener. Erica L. Ayala from Locked On Kraken here. And I just learned Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right. Everything you've earned doubled. All of the cash back from eating at your favorite soup dumpling restaurant doubled. All the cash back from that trip where you sort of learned to snowboard also doubled. And the best part, you don't have to do anything ridiculous to get it. Nope, Discover does it automatically. Seriously though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
Attention shoppers, we now have Taste in the Bread aisle with Dave's Killer Bread. I'm David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast, and that's right, an organic bread that's no longer a sedative for your taste buds. Dave's Killer Bread is on a mission to make the most of the loaf, to rid the world of GMOs, high fructose corn syrup, and artificial ingredients, and plant the seeds of good in all that they bake. Killer taste, killer texture, always organic. Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified.
Big time bets, of course. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all the love, all the support our listeners show us every single morning, Monday through Friday. Find us on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. So hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate it. And just to quickly wrap up the conversation of the Eastern Conference teams, to go on more about the Florida Panthers, if Alex Lyon plays the way that he is playing right now, again, that's just another kind of piece and threat because what he's been able to do in the last 7 games, obviously He lost in overtime to the Toronto Maple Leafs the other day, but it was a 2-1 overtime loss. Before that, he had won 6 games in a row with one shutout, and 7-1 in his last 8 games. One shutout. The save percentage is above .920, goals against average. I can't get it off the top right now, but nonetheless, the stats have been absolutely incredible. And the fact that they're getting this type of goaltending when they couldn't get it out of Bobrovsky or Spencer Knight is pretty good in this last stretch of games for the Florida Panthers. Moving on, though, to the West, if you want to, Flip.
Yeah, let's do it. Other than all I was going to say was Bobrovsky was also starting to play really well before he got sick. And, he's been missing with illness. And all I also wanted to add was sometimes these unpredictable variables headed into the playoffs add into what you just said. It's a whole new season. And don't tell Alex Lyon after he's gone on this heater that he can't go in there and make some big time saves and ruffle a bit of feathers, because now, if anything, these kinds of teams are loaded with the confidence that they need to go out there and make some noise. And you know me, and I will move on from this. I so very badly want the Boston Bruins to get their comeuppance in the first round. All the accolades, all the awards that are going to come their way, and all of those top historic titles that they've already achieved. Oh, that's just the Leafs fan coming out in me right there. I'm really sorry about that, guys, but I so badly want it to happen. Let's head over to the West, Steele. Take us there.
Yeah, Western Conference, for me, this is very easy breezy with what the matchups are looking at with in that obviously wild card spot. I think Vegas will handle Winnipeg in the first round. They'll move on and obviously just be ready to face in the second round whoever they go up against. And
what if it's the Oilers who move into that spot, Steele? Because that's possible too.
No, yeah, I know it could be.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I'm saying
whoever faces them, they're getting dusted.
Whether it's Vegas or Edmonton facing Winnipeg, they're gonna handle Winnipeg and just move on to the second round. I think the same goes for Colorado or Dallas, whoever finishes top of the Central Division. Whether it's Colorado or Dallas, I think they do the same thing with Seattle. I think if it is Dallas, Seattle maybe could upset them. But if it's Colorado will just handle the Seattle Kraken very easily as well. Yeah. And I just don't believe the Kraken or the Jets to be legitimate threats to make a deep run. I think all legitimate threats from wild card spots come from the Eastern Conference.
The only thing that gets spicy for me, and again, we record a little early, so we're ahead of Tuesday's action, so we don't actually know what's shaking out in a big loaded NHL schedule on Tuesday night. But actually, when I look at this, I would feel more comfortable if I was betting on a team to get in and make noise. Would be the Nashville Predators. And that's only because I like UC Saros. And I'm actually not confident with any of these wild card teams on the Western Conference side of things. And I know Seattle has had a step-up season. I just don't think they're there quite yet. And a lot of that has to do with the defensive goaltending end of things. Your boy McCann hits 40. You deserve some credit on that one as well. I think way back when he had 5 goals, you said you like him to pop 35. So, again, more flowers to you, my friend. But yeah, I don't know. And I wanted to, this is where, I'm going to come out of my Austin Matthews disappointing season shell a bit and hit you with this take, Steele. And I'll share the screenshots on Twitter because your boy went on a little bit of a futures heater and some of that money went on the Edmonton Oilers. And what I'm seeing from Edmonton now, and I think I said this at the exact same time of year last year, and you were accurate to say, Mike Smith, I'm not buying it. I'm drinking the Stuart Skinner Kool-Aid. And why not? When you have these two stars doing what they're doing offensively, Steele, this is going to be a hard team to deal with. Right now, who is stopping Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? Because I don't see it. So Colorado, yes, they're the reigning champs. To me, the team headed into the playoffs in the Western Conference that is going to do the most damage, I say Edmonton all the way to the Cup final.
Look, I did say that, and it was true, but even with Mike Smith, they were able to get all the way to the Western Conference Finals, so it's fair enough that you're sticking with your guns and Stuart Skinner. They could definitely go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, especially with the last month of the way they've been playing. I don't know what they are in their last 10 games. I think they're 9-0-1 or
0-1.
9-0-1 in the last 10 games, and like you said, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, even Nugent Hopkins. incredible seasons for all three
Evan
of those Edmonton
Bouchard
Oilers.
starting to creep.
Bouchard, Zach Hyman.
Yeah, man. There's
could be
balanced
threats, but
attack.
that's why they're top in the Pacific Division with the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's get over to big time bets, where the money is made.
Please.
We'll wrap up this show because we're running short on time.
Yes, sir.
I'll just list off all three of my picks. First pick of the night. There's only 3 games on the schedule. I'm just going to go Flames on the money line against the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
I think, it doesn't mean anything. And there's only 3 games to the end of the season. Flames on the money line. That's my first pick. Second pick of the night, Islanders on the money line against the Montreal Canadiens. Their season is on the line right now. It's their last game of the season. They need this 2 points just to hold on to that second wild card spot because the Panthers and Penguins are right on their tail, even the Sabres as well. But my lock of the night, Stars on the money line against the St. Louis Blues. They are still trying to take that top place in that Central Division.
That's actually probably my favorite pick of the night, Steele. It would be taking Dallas with the money line. So that's my first pick for the exact reasons that you just mentioned. And yeah, first off, I think I said it last week. Ease off the bets on these nights, people. Like there's just I know there's always money to be made here and there, but just these are the nights that are real sketchy for me. And my second pick, under in the San Jose Calgary game. You mentioned it. Nothing to play for. Both teams may be a bit defeated. Both teams looking to the golf course. I just see this being a snooze fest. Calgary's a mess. Off-season is going to be real tricky for this Flames club. I like the under. Give me the under 6.5. That's my second pick, and I think the pick that I like the most, Steele, I'm not confident enough to go with the Islanders on the puck line because I was looking, they're going to save their season. They're going to save their season. But you know who has been amazing this season? And we haven't talked about him a little bit since he went to New York, is Bo Horvat. 38 goals, 32 assists, career high 70 points. It's got to be a career 70 points. Yeah, way in. I believe it career high 70 points.
Yeah,
9 points higher than his 61 previous high. Anyway, he's also been on a heater over his last 3 games, Steele, putting up 5 points. Give me the Bo Horvat anytime assist. That's my lock of the night.
I like that lock of the night actually a lot because he has been heating up on my fantasy team as well. Those are all the picks for Wednesday night. Make sure you lock them in. Put your money where your mouth is. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out Game to Game. Every moment, every performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On hosts can deliver. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace. Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.